Hello, my name is Bryn Woodmancy, and this is my final presentation for the Build a Child project for developmental psychology. So this child's name is Addison Moore, and she was born through gestational surrogacy and lives with her two parents. And I'll go through the randomly assigned factors that were assigned to Addison. So she's a female, her parents' ages are between 18 and 39. She lives in a two-parent household, and she was a surrogate child. With no other siblings. Her surrogate mother was on prescription drugs, but neither her surrogate mother nor her biological parents are smokers. She is white and her name is Addison, like stated previously. So her mother and father are in low economic status because the mom works from home to stay with Addison in her early years, and her father is a teacher, so the overall income isn't much. She has no siblings until later in life, and they live in America. So for prenatal development, Addison was born through surrogacy, and this is because her mother had endometriosis, which caused fallopian tube scarring, leaving her unable to have children. But they wanted a child so badly that they went through gestational surrogacy, where both the DNA from her mother and father were inserted into a surrogate mother. And so she has the DNA of her two parents, not the surrogate mother. This cost a lot of money, though, because it took lots of IVF treatments, and it took a lot of work because it's not the normal way to get pregnant, but it was worth it to them because they wanted a child so badly. During the pregnancy, there were no risks except for some prescription drugs that the surrogate mother was on, specifically Zoloft, but the Zoloft didn't appear to have any side effects on Addison's birth. They were worried about miscarriage or preterm delivery, but none of that occurred, and she was born a healthy baby. And Piaget's cognitive theory will be used throughout this to kind of analyze her development throughout the years. The randomly assigned factors for this stage of Addison's life were stay-at-home parent or work from home, which is what Addison's mom does. Child temperament is difficult, and the socioeconomic status is low. So on the right, there's a picture of Addison in her infancy. She has very loving parents. They treat Addison very well, and they prioritize Addison's care by having Addison's mom be a stay-at-home mom. This is what worked best for the family because the husband is a teacher and the income is not much. So this way they didn't have to pay for preschool or daycare. Addison's mom could just work from home, and she has a passion for art and painting, so she was able to do art from home and sell it online to customers. Even though usually low SES is associated with dangerous jobs and jobs that are high risk, they can still be considered low SES if they just don't make enough income, so that's where this family is put. Early on, they learned Addison had a difficult temperament, which means she gets very angry easily and she has a hard time focusing. So they made different accommodations. This is also part of the reason why Addison's mom is a stay-at-home mom, to help care for Addison in this way. She does much better at home in a stable environment where she can be supervised, and her mother is more than willing to do that for Addison. So in this stage of her life, she's in the sensory motor stage, according to Piaget. So she's learning object permanence, reflexes, and how to use her senses at this time. This is also used and seen through playing with toys, learning the difference between colors and shapes, and just little things that little kids do during these years. Now, as Addison enters early childhood, her randomly assigned factors were an authoritative parenting style and no formal education for her early education. So Addison's parents tried putting Addison in preschool, but because of her difficult temperament and just the fact that she was used to learning at home, she did not like it and did not do well there. So Addison's mom decided to teach her from home. So she was homeschooled during her early years throughout preschool. The only downsides with this is that she was not able to socialize with kids as much as she would have in school, but her mom made sure to take her to parks and stores and any outings she could to get her that social interaction she was missing out on. They used an authoritative parenting style, which worked best for the family because it was stern but yet understanding of Addison's needs, and it taught her right from wrong in a very calming way that made it easy for her to learn. So with her difficult temperament, this was the best way for Addison to be supported. It wasn't too harsh, it wasn't too lenient, it kept her in line while also feeling supported. In Piaget's pre-operational stage, she's figuring out symbolic meaning, but struggles with the logic aspect. So she knows some things, but she doesn't understand why. So she may know that the sky is blue, but she doesn't know why. Things like that. She tends to enjoy animism and symbolic thought, so things like watching shows or playing with her dogs, her toy dogs, and pretending they're alive, to help navigate her life. And this helps her through guiding social interactions. By playing with these toys, it almost mimics what real life interactions would be like. But because she is so young, she still struggles with holding conversation, which is normal at this age. For Addison's middle childhood, the randomly assigned factors were public education. She had a change in siblings, and she was a creative skill category with a focus in music. So as she grew older, her parents decided it was best for her to get a formal education, so they sent her to elementary school. She really enjoyed it here, and she found a new love for music that she didn't have prior to being in a public school setting. But there was some bullying going on because she was homeschooled before, and she also had a change in her family life. She had a sister named Julia added to the family from foster care who was just 3 months younger than Addison, so they were about the same age. At first they didn't click because there was some jealousies, and just being around that same age, there tends to be things that come up that make for little competitions or sibling things, but eventually they decided to put their differences aside and became very close sisters. In the concrete operational stage, she is now learning to understand logical thinking. So she starts to understand the logic behind things. And this is part of the public schooling that kind of helps develop this stage. But it is essential for her growth as a person. And she starts to figure out problems with reasoning. And this can help her solve her own problems in her own life. As Addison moved into the adolescent stage, in high school, she found a change in the amount of work she had to do with the high school curriculum. This is much more schoolwork than she had to do in previous years because high school is quite the jump and you become much more independent. She struggled with this at first because of her temperament, but she found ways to work around it, and she became very academically inclined, and she felt very proud and motivated when she got good grades. At school, she didn't have a very tight friend group, so she found a community within her church that helped encourage her to treat all people with kindness regardless of her situation. They were a very forgiving and understanding group, and they made her feel loved throughout her adolescent years. Her musical talents were also able to flourish here as well because she would perform for the church and she would engage in group performances, which she loved through music. In the concrete operational stage, she flourished here because she is continuing to build that logical thinking and understanding, and she's able to reason and think through things a lot easier than she was in her previous years, which helps her understand new topics and solve new problems. As an adult, Addison continued her passion for music by opening her own musical store. She went to college with a degree in business and a minor in music, and because of this was able to open her own store. They sold instruments, music, and other musical essentials. She even taught private music lessons for young students. She thrived in this environment because it was a very free environment for her to work in while also channeling her passion of music and encouraging it on others. She lives about 2 hours away from her family, which is perfect because it's close enough where she can see them, but she is no longer dependent on them because she was very close with her parents. And she's in a long-term relationship with her husband, Mike, who she met in college, and they are hoping to start a family of their own very soon. Now, Addison tragically passed away in a car accident at the age of 63. She was driving back from an orchestra concert at the local high school, and a drunk teenager ran her off the road. This was very tragic for her husband, who last minute was not able to come along, and it saved his life. And her 2 kids, who are now adults, are very saddened by this loss. She died supporting her passion, though, the arts, and she lived a very fulfilling life. So it's almost full circle that she died leaving a musical performance, which is what she was so passionate about. So all in all, I really enjoyed this project. It helped me follow along the lifespan of somebody because through developmental psych, you learn about it bit by bit, but this helped piece it together for me. And through the theories and topics that we learned, I was able to have a deeper understanding of development as a whole. I would say there weren't any major problems that I didn't find, but the only thing was the randomly assigned factors sometimes didn't make sense with some of the assigned factors in earlier checkpoints, but it was nothing that I couldn't work around, and I definitely did enjoy it. So this was a great project. Thank you.